Hello, I am Audrey Cunningham. I am interviewing Petty Officer Catherine Walker on behalf of the Veterans History Project for Prince George's Community College in cooperation with the Office of Congresswoman Donna L. Edwards and the Library of Congress. Today's date is October 9th, 2014. We are located in the television studio of Prince George's Community College in Largo, Maryland. Included in the room are the camera operators, Charlotte Thomas, Zachary Goldsmith, and Maximino Ruiz Julius Shank. The project coordinators are Professors Teresa Dalvest, Louis Roden, and Dr. Sherelle Williams. The purpose of this interview is to gain insight into the life of United States military veterans currently residing in the state of Maryland. We welcome you. Thank you so much for coming today. How would you like me to address you?
You can call me Catherine or
Catherine?
It's
Okay.
up to you.
I'll do Catherine. Such a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood first, just so we can kind of get acquainted. First of all, what was the highest rank you achieved?
E4.
E4, and can you explain to us what E4 means?
I guess it's enlisted grade 4,
Mm-hmm.
if I break it down to civilian terms.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first went in boot camp, I was an E1.
Okay.
So I moved up to E4 before I got out. So about 3 ranks up.
Okay, very good. Now I'm going to take you back to your childhood. Let us begin with, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I have 4 brothers and a sister.
All right. Big family. I
Yeah.
only had one sister. I always wanted brothers. So you had 4 brothers. How
Right.
was life with 4 brothers?
Oh, it was good. It was fun.
It was
a lot
fun.
of protection.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your family?
I grew up in the house with my 4 brothers, my sister, my mom, and dad, and we just people from Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up in the city. It was just a lot of fun having the close-knit family that I have. I'm still close with my family now, so they all still live in Cleveland. I'm the only one that's
Oh,
not in
wow.
Cleveland. So, but I go back and forth. I stay close enough so I can go back and forth.
Very good. How often do you visit?
Maybe about 3 times a year, sometimes more, depending on if it's a celebration or my mom asks me to come. So sometimes she'll just say, well, can you come home? I haven't seen you in a while. So it's a 6-hour drive. So
Okay.
sometimes I'll just go.
Very good. Did anyone serve in the military when you were a child? Any of your relatives, close relatives? Or?
My oldest brother, he was a Marine.
Okay. Why did he choose the Marines?
I never knew why he chose the Marines. I know we were all crying because he was leaving. He came and told us he joined like out of the blue, and we were all crying like, you're leaving, but.
Wow. Did
You
that
know.
inspire you to want to join?
Well, I don't think that inspired me. I wanted to join the military, to go to college. I wanted to get away from home too. I wanted to get away from home too. But mainly, when I grew up where I grew up at, everybody talked about paying back student loans. So that was a kind of fear for me. Like, you would have to pay the money back when you go to college. So when I saw the commercials about the military and they talked about GI Bill, I thought, okay, well, if I join the service, they can pay for my college.
Okay. Let's just go back in your childhood just a little bit. What are some of your fondest memories?
I'm just really growing up with my siblings. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of friends because the street that we stayed on, we all were around the same age. We went to the same school, so we played ball a lot. We just did a lot of activities together. So that was really fun growing up.
It's a lot
Having a
different.
good neighborhood and a close-knit family.
It's a lot different from today. The kids are more in front of the TV with
Yeah.
the games and things. What high school did you attend?
I attended Collinwood High School in Cleveland, Ohio.
How was that?
Oh, it was fun. And now, since Facebook is out and all that, I was able to reconnect with a lot of high school friends. So I actually talk to them quite often,
Very
maybe a
nice.
couple times a month.
Very nice. Did many of your classmates also join the military?
No, a few that I knew of, but not so many.
Okay. What did you consider your selected specific branch back then? when you thought about joining the military, which branch? I know you said your brother joined the Marines, but what branch did you favor?
I thought I would join the Air Force when I first thought about joining the military, and I like their uniforms. So out of the four, I like their uniforms. And I actually, when I went to the recruitment office, the Air Force recruiter wasn't there, so the Navy recruiter said, "Hey, come on over here. I'll talk to you." So,
Okay. So initially you wanted to join the Air Force.
yeah.
Besides the uniforms, what about the Air Force sort of touched you?
I thought at first I wanted to be a pilot. I thought so maybe I could fly a plane or something like that.
Very good. Now, choosing your branch, what was your early training like? What branch, first of all, did you choose?
I chose the Navy.
The Navy, because he was
They
there,
came over and
and
got me.
unfortunately for the Air Force, they lost out on a great person. Now, once you got in your early training, what was that like?
Oh, it was kind of, the first night it was kind of scary because that was my first time leaving home, and I caught a plane and everything, so that was my first time getting on the airplane, and I was really tired and we were asleep, and all of a sudden it was get up, get up, get up. So that kind of scared me. So I was thinking, what did I get myself into?
Exactly. Now, you said you wanted to get away. So while
Right.
you were on that plane thinking, what have I gotten myself
Right.
into? What were your feelings? What were your emotions?
Well, it was hard leaving. Even though I said I wanted to leave home, it was hard because my family's really close knit. So it was hard, but I wanted to get an education, and I just didn't want to stay in the city, and I didn't want to just work. I wanted a career. So I knew people who had graduated before me, some of my siblings and friends, and I thought I didn't want to just stay in Cleveland and get a job.
Okay. Where did you do your boot camp?
I did it in Orlando, Florida.
How nice. How was the weather?
Hot.
Okay.
Very
A
hot.
big adjustment?
Yeah, it was really hot. It was June, July, so it was just hot, and I was tired. That's all. It was hot and tired.
Hot and tired.
Right.
When you think about traveling there, what are the biggest memories you have besides being on the airplane, but just like traveling to Orlando?
Well, I was crying a little bit. I was leaving home, but once I got there, I met other people. We got off the plane. I forgot exactly where we were, but they gathered us all together. So I immediately started meeting other people and was able to talk. So then I didn't feel so alone because it was a bunch of us, and we just clicked right away. I guess we were all in the same situation. So
Exactly. How old were you then?
19.
You were 19. Now, had you heard stories about what was going to happen to you once you got there?
No, I didn't really know anything about it. I knew I had to go to boot camp because my brother went to boot camp, and the recruiter, they talked about boot camp. First you would go to boot camp, which was your basic training, and then after that they said you would have to go learn your rate, whatever job that you would do in the Navy. So, and I knew I would have to exercise. So, I used to run track, play ball, so I was in pretty good shape. So I thought I was pretty tough. So I was like, oh, I can do it.
Was that a reality? Once you got there, could you do it?
Yeah, I could. I was gonna do it no matter what. I felt like, okay, I'm not gonna fail at this. So
Exactly. Now, what do you remember most about your training camp?
that I couldn't swim when I got there, and we had to climb up a big ladder and jump from so far up in the water. And they gave us a quick lesson, said when your feet hit the bottom, kind of do like this and bring yourself back up to the top. But I almost drowned. They came and saved me.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, because I couldn't swim. So one thing with the Navy, they put us in remedial swimming, all the people who couldn't swim, but they actually taught me how to do the elementary backstroke and to float. I had to learn that in order to make it through boot camp. So I only had maybe about 3 weeks to learn how to float and do the elementary backstroke.
Now, prior to this, what was your experience with water, swimming?
None, because I used to go to the beach sometimes with my family, but we played in the shallow water, but I never learned how to swim.
Okay. So when you made the choice to join the Navy, you didn't think about the water aspect, being out on a boat?
No, I didn't because I went to join the Air Force.
Okay.
And the recruiter came and got me and talked me into, well, just take the test. Well, they told me I could take the test with anyone and I could still join the Air Force. But after I took the test and the results came back, they talked me into joining the Navy.
Okay, so your test results must have been wonderful.
Yeah, I don't remember the score, but you know, they talked me into joining the Navy.
Now, how did they talk you into it?
Well, they just told me, they talked to me, asked me why was I joining the service, and I was talking about education. So they explained to me that the same education was afforded, but they, with the Navy, they were, selling it like you go so many different places, you get to go more places than the Air Force overseas, so things like that.
How different was the environment there than the one you grew up in?
Well, it wasn't a home environment, so it was just work. It was a work environment, So we had to, you just had things you had to do, and so I followed whatever they told me to do, I just did it. So.
Now you say it wasn't like a home environment. Were you
No.
expecting it to be a little like home, or were you expecting to have more camaraderie with the people that you met there?
I didn't know. I really didn't think about it as much. I just thought I was so tough that I could do it. That's, I just thought whatever they throw at me, I'm going to do it. And so I didn't really think like, the environment, it was like, it's a work environment.
It was
It's-
work.
Yeah, so these people are in charge, and if I want to succeed, this is what I have to do, so.
Okay, describe to me your living quarters.
Just a big room with bunk beds. This is boot camp.
Yes.
So it's just my first experience, a big room with bunk beds from one end to the other. Maybe, I don't know, 20 on each side, which made 40 beds. It's about 80 beds in one room.
Okay. How was that environment for you? I mean, I know you were raised with your brothers and your sister, but how did it feel being amongst that many people, especially sleeping and getting up and just being around that bigger group?
Well, it took some getting used to, just as far as like sleep patterns and things like that. But once we all got to know each other, or once you're there, you get up early. You
Yeah.
do a lot all day. So after a while, when you hit the bunks, it's just sleep.
Sleep.
As much
Be-
as you can get.
Before I get to the getting up part, the time, how many people snored? Was there a lot of snoring going on?
I don't recall it being an issue. If someone snored, it wasn't an issue, so I don't recall.
Okay. Now, you said you got up early. What time?
Oh, I think sometimes like 4 in the morning. I guess I'm not much different from now, but about 4 in the morning, things like that. Or, sometimes they would wake you up with a horn, or somebody, get up, it's time to get up. So things like that.
So was that a part of the culture, just being startled awake, or that was your usual alarm?
That was the usual alarm because someone woke us up.
Okay.
Everyone's tired, by the time we go to bed. So, someone had to come and wake us up. It's usually we had a person a recruiter, or a recruit like us that was in charge. So that person would mainly wake us up in the morning.
Okay. Did you like being woke up that way?
I didn't, after a while, I didn't even think about it.
Okay.
So maybe when I first started, it was new, but it just started being a norm.
Okay. Besides that, what were some of the adjustments that you had to make just being in the military?
Well, of course, being away from family, thinking for myself outside of, or as far as handling my own money, things like that, and just trying to figure out where my life would go from day to day. From day to day, it was just totally different because now I'm an adult. I'm at work, so just that was really the big adjustment. Just kind of being on my own without my family.
So that freedom that you were looking for when you said you wanted to just get away from home, Did you find that there?
Well, I thought I wanted to get away from home, so I left.
You
But
don't
after-
miss it till it's gone. Okay.
So, so boy, I really wish I was back at home. So most of the time when I was in boot camp, I wanted to go back home.
Yeah. Was there
Yeah.
anything comforting? Anything where you
It
found
was
comfort?
because it was a lot of diversity there than where I'm from, because I grew up in the inner city of Cleveland. So I started listening to different kinds of music, because in our boot camp we would have different days where we listened to different kind of music, so everyone would have a chance to hear the music that they like. So, like I said, diversity. I met a lot of people from different places, different races, and so we were all a big family there, because we all wanted to succeed. We all wanted to get through boot camp. So after a while, we try to help each other, and so that was good. Just meeting different people from different places, just coming out of a box.
Exactly. So now, what was it like being trained? Were you in a co-ed situation, or was it all females? What were you involved?
It was all females. It was tough sometimes. A lot of exercise. Hurry up and eat. Because you only had so long to eat, maybe 15 minutes sometimes. Sit down, eat, get up. So a lot of, just a lot of exercise. So even though I played sports in high school, and I was in shape, but I had to do a lot of work to get through boot camp.
So what did you miss most about home?
Just my family, being with my family, especially my siblings.
Were you clicking your heels like Dorothy? Want to go home?
Right.
Were you feeling like you just really passionately wanted to go home?
Well, at first, because you start off homesick, so I still wanted to go home, but I was able to adjust to where I didn't feel it as I knew I wanted to go home, but I didn't think about it as much over time.
Now, we've all heard that boot camp is very hard, rigorous training. Oh gosh, how was it for you? I know you said you were in shape, so you felt like you could take it, but how was it really?
It was hard, but I thought I did pretty good, and I ended up helping a lot with some of my other teammates that couldn't. Sometimes they couldn't make the run, so sometimes I had enough energy. I can go back and get the ones in the back and kind of encourage them to come on. Wow. So after a while, you get adapted, you get trained. And so over time, it started out really hard, but by the time you're out of there, you can just jump out there and do the exercises.
Who were some of the friends that you made there?
My best friend there is Brenda Jordan, which I lost contact with her. She was from Chicago. We were in touch for a long time. So every once in a while, I'll try to find. I haven't had any luck yet, but every once in a while, I'll look for her. But I had a friend, Angelina Bell. She's just discharged from the military. That was a good friend of mine in boot camp. So I had two really good friends from there.
Now, can you tell us about the drill sergeants? How were they?
At first, it seemed like they were really tough and mean, but by the time we finished, they were our friends also. So it ended up being like a family at the end.
Do you remember any of their names?
I remember it was a male and a female. So the female was Petty Officer Berg, and the man was, I believe, Petty Officer Wahlberg, something like that, Wahlberg.
Now,
Yeah.
can you tell us what helped you get through your basic training? What helped you get through that?
I was determined to make it, and I think this from my family, and just wanting to succeed also. I already had it in my mind that I wasn't going to give up. So,
Was there any mental training?
yeah, we had to do a lot of inspections and drills, and they called it paying attention to detail. So that was kind of mental, because you didn't want to make that one little small mistake, because you would have to maybe do some extra exercise, or something would happen, or you don't want to. They used to call it setback. If you had 3 inspections to get your bed right. If your bed wasn't right on the 3rd time, you may have to go back with another. They'll set you back a couple weeks. They'll put you out your company, and you would have to go with a company that was behind you. So if you did that, instead of your boot camp being about 8 weeks, it could turn into 12 weeks.
Wow. Can you describe some of the most challenging parts of the physical activities and training?
Probably when we learned how to carry a rifle, because it's a certain way you had to hold it. So can't remember exactly, but it was something like holding it with a couple fingers, holding it here. So that was tough because it was really heavy. So, and you couldn't drop your rifle or you were in trouble. So learning how to hold that rifle and march and run with it and do all these things with it, that was probably the toughest part for me.
What about the first time you fired your rifle?
Oh, I never fired.
You never
I never fired a
fired?
rifle. No.
Okay, all right. Now, when you got your orders, how did you feel?
After boot camp was over with? Well, after boot camp, you have to go and do your training first to learn your job. So after boot camp, I went to San Diego because I was a radio man, so I had to go learn that. So I was in boot camp for 8 weeks, and then I had to spend another 4 weeks learning the rate.
Okay. Did you feel that you were prepared when you got to San Diego to get started on that aspect?
Right. Yeah. It was just really school. It was like really the theory part and everything we did. It was kind of simulated. It was set up and they taught us how to do everything, but it wasn't active. It wasn't live. So it was just training.
Okay, let's talk about your first mission. When you were traveling to your first mission, how did you feel?
I never deployed. So
okay.
I never deployed to a war. So
So where were you stationed?
My first duty station was here in Cheltenham, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
And it was a communication site called Navtel CISIC. It's closed now because Homeland Security, they own that now. It's their Flexi Training Center. And so what I did was help. It's equal to IT now, but what I did was make sure the computers were running, test all these programs, and just make sure all these programs was running that the military would use or that the Navy would use.
Okay, how did you feel moving around? I know you said you started in one part of the country, then you were moved to San Diego, and then you were sent here, Cheltenham. How did you feel about the moving?
That was okay. I was happy to come to DC because, I heard it was a fun place. It was the capital, so I didn't mind coming to DC. I knew that Cleveland was an hour, the flight was like an hour away, so I found that out right away. So I said, okay, I can fly home
Exactly.
in about an hour or so.
How did your family feel while you were gone?
They wrote me a lot, so I know my mom was kind of sad because I wasn't there, but we wrote and she understood, that I had to grow up and go on with my career, so it was okay. But in the end, they all proud. When I graduated from boot camp, everybody's happy. Yeah, I did it, yay. So.
Now, how often did you come home? How often did you go back?
No,
to
at
Ohio?
first, when I first got here to DC, I used to go home a lot, and so then I had to talk to myself and say, hey, if you don't just stay here and work, then you're not going to ever get over being homesick and going back home. So when I first got stationed here, I probably went home maybe every 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
But then after that, I said, okay, maybe after being here for about 4 months, I said, okay, I have to grow up and just do it. So,
can you explain or describe some of your initial duties?
Well, my first thing, I learned how to just test programs. They used to call it debugging. I don't know what it's called now. Just test a lot of program that the military would use for different reasons, and I had to do a lot of what they call file save information. And it was a lot of communication. So a lot of communications we couldn't talk about. I had a top secret security clearance, and so I still don't talk about anything like that because you can't. When you get out to service, you sign these papers, certain things you won't talk about. So I just worked in communications really, and a lot of programming.
How vital did you feel your job was, or the part that you were playing? How vital did you feel that was?
Oh, I felt that it was very important because I had to maintain the computers running And like I said, the programs had to be tested because they were used for the country for different reasons. So I felt like it was very important.
Now, you said you were trying to find one of your friends, one of your
Right.
best friends. You still have not found her?
No, I still haven't found her. I
Oh,
still haven't found her. Every once in a while, I'll try through, some of the social media, but her name is common. So when
It's
I
a
look
lot.
up Brenda Jordan in Chicago, I get so many.
When you find her, what are you guys going to talk about?
I have to find out what she's been doing, what she's been up to, just catch up.
When you were there, when you were stationed here in Cheltenham, when you contacted your family, what was your discussion about? Was it about your job? What did you talk to them about?
Well, maybe at first, just explaining to them what I do, but after that, just regular conversation. When you're close to somebody, you can talk about anything and about nothing, but you're still talking for a long time. So
Exactly. Now let's talk about when you went home. You went back to Ohio when you left the military. How was that experience?
Well, I didn't move back to Ohio because after I was stationed here in Cheltenham, then I was stationed in Puerto Rico. I actually got married there.
Congratulations.
And my husband is from Detroit, Michigan. So I ended up, when I got out of service, we actually moved to Detroit, Michigan.
Okay. And now where are you living?
Here I live in Upper Marlboro,
Upper
Maryland.
Marlboro. What made you come and stay in this area?
Well, when I went to Detroit, I wasn't working for a while. I went to college. I got a job at the Department of Veterans Affairs in Detroit. And then I was in school still getting my master's degree, and I heard about the Presidential Management Fellowship Program with the federal government. So I actually applied for that program, and I got accepted in that program, and I came out here to interview with different agencies just to try to find one to work with in that program. And so I ended up getting selected by Homeland Security,
How nice.
and I relocated here from Detroit.
Okay. What impacted you the most with your decision to join the Navy?
I think that it made me grow up and be responsible. And still today, even though I served 5 years, but I still reflect on that in a lot of situations. Paying attention to details and just listening, good listening skills, and like I said, being responsible. That's really responsible, accountable. So that impacted me to make sure, try to pay my bills on time,
Yes.
take care of my kids, just try to take care of everything the way that it should be, and all of my responsibilities.
Have you remained friends with, I know you said you were looking for one friend, but were there any other people, maybe from basic training or just in your whole service time, that you've kept in contact with?
Mainly the people from Puerto Rico. When I got stationed there, we were a real close-knit group. A lot of people, they live here also, so we still get together. We go out, we get together. So I got some lifelong friends from being in the Navy, especially in Puerto Rico. It's a big group of us that still talks.
Go back and talk to your 19-year-old self. And knowing what you know now, tell her some things.
If I knew what I knew now, I would have went to college first. And then I would have joined the Navy, because then I would have been an officer.
Okay.
Because one reason I didn't stay in the Navy is because I wasn't making enough money.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I thought it was too hard to increase my salary. I was like, this is a lot of work. I need more money. So,
So you would have taken those student loans.
right. And then I would have joined the military so they can pay off my loans.
Okay. Now, you've described to us what you've done with your military training as far as your work now. Where do you see yourself in the future? Because of what you went through, because of what you experienced, where do you see yourself going in the future?
In the future, I do want to be an entrepreneur, so I'm just looking into a lot of ventures, and I think that by leaving home early, joining the Navy, then moving to going here, going to Puerto Rico, moving to Detroit. Now I'm back here. I'm so mobile. So, you know, once I have one daughter in college, I have a son, he's in the 8th grade. So once they're done with school, you know, I don't know what's next, but I definitely want to retire and have my own business. So I'm just looking into a few things, and I'm just starting to work now. So maybe after, when the 10 years is up, I got 10 years to retire. Already got it counted out. So hopefully by the time I retire, I'll already be working on something that's going to lead to me in the future.
Now you say you have a daughter in college and you have a son, 8 years old?
Oh, he's in the 8th grade.
He's in
13.
the 8th grade, 13. What would you tell them if they came home and said, "Ma, I'm joining the military"?
I really wouldn't want them to.
Okay.
And just to be honest, I want them to go to college. You know, I want that to be there, because I found that even though I went to the Navy, I didn't finish college when I was in. I still had to go when I got out, just to, I felt, to be successful. Because when I first got out of the service, I couldn't find a job because my what I did in the military, they were a little behind the times. So I worked on the big computer systems like peripheral systems when the computers was really big, and all those things that's in that little hard drive used to sit on the floor. So when I got out of the military, the personal computer was already here and IT had changed. So I couldn't find a job. And so a lot of times the military is kind of, I think, behind the times with some of their equipment. I think they buy old equipment. So I think that if someone's going to join the military, they have to know what you're going to do when you get out, and just try to train yourself in that way to be prepared for your transition, because I wasn't. And
Were
so,
you shocked by that? Were you did
Yeah,
you come out
because-
expecting to just, like, I'm
Right.
military, I'm Navy, I should get a job? It should
right,
be
and I
easy?
thought, because I was in communications with IT, I thought I would find a job, and I couldn't find a job. My husband, he couldn't find a job, but someone hired him because they were in the Navy. So they said, you know what, I'm going to hire you and I'm going to train you. So he found a job first.
Okay.
So, but I couldn't find a job, so I said, you know what, I'm going to go to school. So I could. But in between me graduating from college, I worked at Kmart after the Navy.
Okay.
I went to cosmetology school to get, because I used to love to do hair before I joined the service. I said, okay, I'll pick up that on the side. And so I did a few things. Before I worked at KB Toys, used to be KB Toys, they're closed now. So I did a few odd jobs, what I consider, but it's not what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
So, you know, it was tough, because that I graduated from college in 2000. So this is a jump. I got out in 93, graduated from 2000. So my first real job, I felt, was when I got hired by the Department of Veteran Affairs after college.
How had you envisioned your life once you left the military? I know you said, you know, you thought you would get a job, but how had you really pictured leaving the Navy?
Well, I like I said, I wasn't making enough money, and I kind of talked my husband into getting out. He might have stayed in, but, you know, I'm like, we need to go. We're not making enough money. We can
So-
make more money out there.
So money was the biggest thing.
It was, because I just felt like we worked too hard for this. We're not making enough
Yeah,
money. So
yeah.
I just, you know, because we stayed in base housing, and so we didn't have to pay rent or anything like that. But I felt like with the money we make now, if we had to pay rent,
Yeah.
we couldn't make it. So even though we were in the military, I felt like, hey, this is not enough. Like, we have to start thinking about our future. But we thought what we did was good.
Okay.
And so we would be able to find jobs when we got out. But
Can you talk to me about your disappointment about that, not being able to find a job, difficult situations? Because that creates stress on the marriage. And I know between you and your husband, maybe some things arose. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that?
well, that's one reason we went to Detroit, because my husband said, well, if we go to Detroit, my family can help. I didn't feel like my family could help, because everybody had their own families, and they were, so I didn't want to go be a burden on them. But he thought if we go to Detroit, they could help us as we make our transition. And so when we first got there, we actually stayed with I stayed with my mother-in-law for about 3 weeks. But we were able to get our own place because I got out like maybe about 3 months early, so I still had at least 3 months of pay. And so, but because we were veterans, even though we didn't have jobs yet, someone rented us our first home. He's
very nice.
Because we said we're gonna get jobs. So he said okay.
Very good.
And so he rented us our first place. So, but it took me a while. My husband was working, and you know, I'm grateful for my husband because he let me kind of figure out what I wanted to do, because I had the time where I went to cosmetology school. So I mean, I'll just be a hairdresser because that's what I did at first. So I went through that. I used my GI Bill, went to cosmetology school, but once I started working in the shop, I still wasn't making enough money.
Back to that. So tell me, what do you do for the Veterans Administration now?
I work for the Department of Homeland Security now.
Okay.
And because I worked for VA for 6 years, and I was
Okay.
a veteran service rep, so I help veterans with their disability compensation plans, pension, burial benefits, any of those benefits, VA, federal benefits, and just help them to fill out forms and things like that, and give them advice. And so now at Homeland Security, I'm a Veterans Employment Specialist, so I work in the Veterans Office. I manage the Wounded Warrior Program for the Department of Homeland Security. I manage the Disabled Veterans Affirmative Action Program, and I talk to veterans on a regular basis, I help them. I go out to the bases with their transition, talk to them at some of the TAP classes, which is the transition classes. So I'm always helping veterans. And I volunteer with the Women's Veterans Interactive. So I'm the Deputy Director of Workforce Engagement for that.
Awesome. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from the service? I know you said we didn't go back and touch on getting up at 4 o'clock. Do you still get up at 4?
Yes, I do. I get up because I'm at work at 6:30. So if I'm exercising, I get up at 4. I try to exercise from like 4 to 4:30. Sometimes it's consistent. Lately, it has not been, but I get back on track. But between 4:30, I'm up getting ready for work. You know, catching the metro. About a 25-minute ride from. I actually catch Largo right here, and about a 25-minute ride to work. So I'm there by 6:30.
So if you were talking to someone who was thinking about going into the military, what lessons that you've learned would you share with them?
If you're not going to go to college while you're in the military, you should start, before you go to the military, if you go to the military, you should start thinking about your future early, your transition, because whether it's 5 years or 23 years, you're going to have to make that transition. So you should be shaping your future. So if, for example, if you're going to go in the military and be a nurse, you should find out the qualifications that a nurse needs once they get out of the military in order to be employed and to still work on a level, because you don't want to work for 23 years in the military and get out and someone says you got to start down here because you don't have the skills. So just to prepare early for your transition.
There are going to be future generations that will watch what you've shared with us and what we've talked about. What message would you like to leave with them?
I would like for them to know it's not a bad thing to serve your country, because I'm proud of my military service, but at the same time that you're serving your country, I want future military members, veterans, to still take care of yourself, to think about your future early, you know, to really take care of yourself in the midst of all of that.
Excellent. Is there anything that you feel we haven't discussed that you'd like to share with us?
No, like I said, I work with veterans every day. I have since I got out of the service, especially, and even though I don't work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, I still assist veterans with filling out their claims. If they come and they ask about employment, I always ask them, did they go through the Veterans Affairs? And so I just you know, I just want veterans to know that they are important and that people do care. And we always hear that, you know, that the country don't care about veterans, but it's people out here who cares. And like I said, I work with Women's Veterans Interactive, and we help homeless women veterans also. So it's a lot of people out here that care, and it's quite a few nonprofits. So if you having trouble, try to get connected. You know, it's help out here. Sometimes you have to find it, but we care.
Well, I would like to thank you
Okay.
for giving of your life in service to our country. And this concludes our interview. I would like to thank you, Ms. Walker.
Okay, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Thank you for taking time to share your story and your memories. They were beautiful and wonderful.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you for working with us on this Veterans History Project.
Thanks.